created funny car drag racing. The Snake, Don Prudhomme, one of the legendary drivers of the NHRA. 10 years later, another name emerged as the top driver of the breed. Kenny Bernstein, like Prudhomme, hosted 4 consecutive world championships. Today, you will watch as these two titans of the quarter mile launch new careers piloting the kings of the sport, the Top Fuel dragster, Prudhomme and Bernstein, two greats of racing. Will one of them become the best of the 90s?
NBC Sports presents the NHRA Chief Auto Parts Winternationals.
The Winternationals have always signified a rite of passage. For 30 years, this event has kicked off the drag racing season. Now as we head into the 90s, the top teams and drivers are again assembled at the LA County Fairplex in Pomona, California to determine who's the best. Among such drivers as Shirley Muldowney. And if you're a car freak, Pomona is the place to be. Hello everyone, I'm Fred Rogan, and right now I'm standing on one of the most famous drag strips in this country, Pomona. It is here where drivers and teams try to turn a quarter of a mile into 5.5 seconds. Though that type of pursuit may seem better suited for the young lions of the sport, today, 12 of 16 qualifiers in the Top Fuel classification are 45 years or older. Now, 2 of these 45-plus-year-olds are familiar with the surroundings, but unaccustomed to their situation. With more on that, let's go down to Steve Evans.
You know, Fred, funny car drivers have always thought, and some have even said, that driving a Top Fuel dragster would be a piece of cake with that long, stable wheelbase and the engine behind the driver. Well, Kenny Bernstein and Don Prudhomme both found out that isn't necessarily so.
It's nothing like I expected. I don't know what I expected. I've never driven a rear-engine car, but the funny car, you felt everything instantly because the motor's right in front of you and all that weight's right there, and it moves a little bit, and your old fanny feels it. These cars are a lot different. The motor's behind you, the weight's way up high, and when they start to move around and do the wishy-washy back there, it's hard to pick that up, a guy that's inexperienced like me. So the few runs that we made were a little unnerving.
You were barely introduced to this new car before it bit you.
Well, I sure did. First full run down the quarter mile, it turned over backwards. It broke a front wing support, and it set us back a little bit, but we're coming back strong.
Other than that, what's the sensation?
Well, it's just a lot different. You know, you're riding out in front instead of behind the engine. It's just a lot quieter and smoother, and to be honest with you, I really enjoy it.
Don Prudhomme cruised through round number 1 of eliminations earlier today. But Kenny Bernstein, well, he put a bit of pressure on this man, his crew chief, Dale Armstrong. In a tire-smoking affair with Chris Karamazini's, Kenny had to get off and on the throttle trying to regain that traction. That's very hard on these nitro-burning engines, and he broke a motor beyond repair. So Dale and the crew have installed a brand-new power plant in this Top Fuel dragster. Fred?
All right, thanks, Steve. Also joining us today, 3-time Top Fuel World Champ and a 5-time winner of this event, of course, Big Daddy Don Garlits. Don, welcome. And with a new season, of course, comes change.
The major change this year is some rules in Top Fuel racing. The NHRA has instigated a rule of 320 gear ratio for safety and no electronics to put more of the human element back into racing. They can have computers to gather data, but they can't have electronic braking or electronic fuel adjustment or things of that nature. The 320 gear ratio has let the speed down about 9 miles an hour, but we got a little side effect, less breakage. Try to imagine it like this in your car. If you had to take off in second gear all the time instead of low, where you'd be wearing out the clutch as well, the same thing applies here.
All right, Don, thanks very much. Nice that the weatherman is cooperating today, unlike a week ago when it rained, so we are 1 week behind in getting this event in.
Well, Fred, you couldn't ask for a more perfect day for racing, not only for the fans, but for these high-compression supercharged engines. And there is Don Prudhomme executing a perfect burnout. Now, this is round 2 of Top Fuel action. We started with a field of 16. It's now been cut to 8.
Of course, Steve, the burnout is to get the tires hot, put some rubber down on the track, and that's very important, especially this race delayed to rain. It gives a little more traction on this fresh course.
Don Prudhomme's opponent in the near lane is Laurie Johns. But back in the funny car pit, some unusual activity. The crew for Art Hendy, they were victorious in round number 1. Not only did they have all the usual motor work to do, but they've got some body damage, and the car, chassis, engine, every component is absolutely filthy. The exhaust headers come up, and it looks like Hendy cruised the beach. The exhaust pipes are full of sand, and in some ways, Don Garlits, he did.
Well, Steve, it all happened in round 1. Mark Oswald was in the near lane, Art Hendy in the far lane. It looked like it was going to be a real good race. Then Oswald got into some trouble with the traction, and Hendy went on to win. But it wasn't a win like he wanted.
Talk about a panic. The throttle stuck wide open on that car. The parachute at that speed really couldn't do the job, and into the sand trap went Art Hendy. Now, he executed that just perfectly. Drove straight into it, trusting NHRA's design, and it paid off for it. No major problems as far as the chassis was concerned. The body had some obvious cracks in it. The biggest situation they faced was finding a hose and a water supply for obvious reasons. So that work going back on in the pit area. Let's hope they can make it for round 2 of funny cars.
Capacity crowd on hand here after a week off due to the weather, and we are getting set now for top fuel action. Second round, the Snake, Don Prudhomme, backing in. And his opponent in this competition, Laurie Johns, setting up on the line.
When you're only in your second season of professional top fuel racing, it's got to be quite a thrill for a young lady like Laurie Johns from Corpus Christi, Texas, to meet up with a true legend in the sport, the Snake in the far lane. It's Prudhomme away first. Prudhomme at half track. But at the finish line, it is Laurie Johns. 5.08 seconds, 273 miles per hour. Prudhomme's crew was stunned. Johns' crew, well, stunned in the opposite direction.
So we start this day with a major upset. Don, what happened?
Well, it certainly wasn't the Snake's fault. He took his classic starting line advantage on Johns, got right out on the young lady, and it looked like he was going to win the race. As they moved down course, he continued to hold on to that advantage that he had gained at the starting line. But as the cars approached the end, something went wrong, and Johns moved ahead.
A big win for Laurie Johns, a disappointing finish for the Snake. Steve is with him right now.
Well, you can see why Don Prudhomme's car had no big top-end charge to catch Laurie Johns. The blower belt that spins the supercharger is completely shredded. Don, you can't be totally disappointed, though, with this debut effort. The car ran 5.0s.
I'm disappointed.
I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's just it pitched the belt off, and I guess the car spin the tires too much RPM or something. But yeah, it was running decent, Steve. You know, just one of them deals.
And it shows a lot of potential for the future.
It'll get a lot better, believe me.
The Snake will have to look toward the future after a disappointing start in his maiden voyage in the top fuel division. One of 3 categories we'll be looking at today. We'll also be focusing on pro stock and funny car, but of course, this is the top fuel, Steve.
And all eyes are on this second pair in the second round. It is a beautiful matchup featuring the Winston champion, Gary Ormsby, who won this event last year, along with 5 others to earn that crown. And his competition today is Shirley Muldowney, the 3-time Winston champion. Shirley was asked how she saw the 90s.
I anticipate a good season this season, and then we're going to look at it after that. I think the momentum is there. All the stars are now over here where they should be. And I think Top Fuel is going to be the most exciting form of racing anywhere. I really believe that in my heart.
She wants an exciting race here. Shirley Muldowney out of Mount Clemens, Michigan, taking on Gary Ormsby, the Winston champion.
Well, she wanted excitement. It doesn't get much more exciting than that.
Oh, Shirley Muldowney could not get a hold of the racetrack. Gary Ormsby's crew cheers him on to a 5.05, 279 miles per hour. He will advance to the semifinals. And for Shirley Muldowney, well, there's no second chances in this drag racing sport. Back in the funny car pit area, Art Hendy, you gonna make it?
Just gonna keep working, you know, hope for an oil down or something like that. If that happens, then we got it. We just got to keep on going, you know.
So Art Hendy has to play beat the clock. We'll find out if he does when the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals continue.
This NBC Sports Special is brought to you by Goodyear Eagle Radials, the best-selling performance radials in the world. By Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Fram Bendix and Autolite, quality products of Allied Signal. And by Castrol GTX, engineered for today's smaller cars.
Welcome back to Pomona, California. The crowd saluting 24-year-old Laurie Johns, who upset Don Prudhomme in this second round of Top Fuel. Laurie is a study in contrast. The Corpus Christi native attended Texas A&M and also had her coming out. Laurie, a debutante as well. Steve spent some time with her a few moments ago.
Somehow this just doesn't seem to be the right environment for a popular Corpus Christi debutante, an attractive single co-ed at Texas A&M University. And I've always wondered why a girl like Laurie Johns would make the world's fastest motorsport her career choice. Laurie, as always, signing autographs for the fans. Why drag racing?
I ask myself that every day. No, that's just been a lifelong dream. I always wanted to drive a Top Fuel dragster, and fortunately, I was in a position to be able to do that. A lot of people have dreams and can't ever achieve them their whole lives. I'm just a very fortunate person.
Laurie Johns with the need for speed and taking advantage of it, but now more Top Fuel action.
And it pits two former teammates against each other. Darrell Gwynn in the near lane up against Kenny Bernstein in the far lane. Bernstein in only his second side-by-side race in a rear-engine Top Fuel dragster. Darrell Gwynn, well, Pomona has been very good to him. He's won 4 times over the last few years, including the Winternationals in '86.
No love lost in this match race. Nothing Bernstein would like better than to outrun Gwynn, but he's got a new motor. Can he do it?
That's right, a big question mark in the far lane. Bernstein away first. It's Bernstein, identical elapsed times, 5:01, the best we've seen today for both drivers. 276 for Bernstein, 279 for Gwynn.
Beautiful start for Bernstein. He was ready for Gwynn. Look at that front end come up as he pulls away in the start. And he needed every bit of it because Gwynn had his motor loaded for the power as they run down the Pomona Raceway side by side, neither car giving an inch, but Bernstein wins.
You talk about close. Bernstein at 5:01.9, Gwynn 5:01.3. Bernstein wins with the slower ET. There is oil all over Kenny Bernstein's engine, Don.
Crew's got a lot of work to do.
All right, Steve is with Bernstein.
What do you think the problem is?
I don't know. It's really strange. It's up front. You know, when they blow, it goes out the back. So I don't know. Armstrong will figure it out.
Classic drag race.
Yes, sir.
If Dale Armstrong can't figure it out, nobody can. He is the highest paid crew chief in motorsports, over $300,000 a year. Now getting set on the track, Dick LaHaye and Gene Snow.
You know, Fred, you talked earlier about the, shall we call them, experienced drivers in Top Fuel, where there's 100 years of drag racing experience out on this racetrack right now. Dick LaHaye, the '87 world champ, didn't even hit his stride until he was 40 years of age. Gene Snow is the #1 qualifier here, the only driver beneath 5 seconds at 4.98.
Don, you've run against both of them, haven't you?
And what a contrast. Dick LaHaye, the conservative, against Gene Snow. He makes the motor produce the power every run. That's how he got the 498 low qualifier.
And here's an update, you guys, on the Bernstein engine. Apparently all the oil came out of the front because a little plug was left out. It doesn't appear to be seriously hurt and may go to battle again in the semifinals.
It is Dick LaHaye in the far lane, Gene Snow in the near lane.
Each man puts his car into the starting position very carefully. That's called staging, trying to gain that starting line advantage.
And when you see yellow leave, in this case, they left right together. Oh, a flash of fire and a loud concussion from Gene Snow's engine, Don Garland. That was a boomer.
What you saw was the supercharger. Gene lost the blower, and you see it's completely gone. A little fire there on the engine, nothing serious, nothing to be alarmed at. Gene Snow's car was making a beautiful move at mid-track when this occurred. Of course, the engine shut off, and LaHaye went on to win. But it looked like Snow was going to get LaHaye in this race.
Don, when you were sitting in the driver's seat and you experienced that, what are your thoughts?
Well, you immediately start shutting off all the fuel valves and getting the chute out because you never know what's going on back there. You know, it's all in back of you.
Luckily, in this situation, no one was hurt. Steve is at the far end of the track with Gene Snow. Steve?
Well, Fred, Don, the supercharger is mysteriously missing from this machine. It normally would be between the manifold and the injector, and it is gone on the racetrack somewhere. There's no injury to Gene Snow, just a lot of disappointment. The quickest car of the event is out.
It's an injected car now, no blower, huh? No, it's terrible. It was pulling real good.
Indeed. Dropped the valve, probably, something like that?
Probably something like that. I've never had one quite that bad.
I've never seen one quite that bad.
I never have either. Something came up and hit me on the shoulder a little bit, but no telling what it was. Everything's gone.
Thanks, Gene.
Thank you.
Don, you've known Gene Snow for years. He doesn't look like a very happy man today.
Well, a lot of expense to something like this. This could mean as much as $10,000 worth of parts.
And that wraps up the second round. We are getting set for semifinal action. Dick LaHaye versus Gary Ormsby in one. The other, Kenny Bernstein against Laurie Johns. Bernstein has lane choice here. Lane choice determined by the quicker elapsed time in the previous round.
Rolling to the line, the semifinals in Pro Stock. And you talk about cars that are a handful to drive. They're only 2,350 pounds, make well over 1,000 horsepower, and the driver has to change gears 3 times on every run. This was earlier in qualifying. Near lane, Harry Scrivener. Far lane, Rich Marino. Watch the red car. Marino, the only pain was in his wallet.
An e-ticket ride for Rich Marino. Don, in this situation, what can you do to save it?
Well, he's trying to steer it. Watch the front wheel as he turns it back and forth. He's doing the right thing. The car just was not responding. It was slipping too hard. It had too much speed, too much momentum.
One thing he could have done was to pull the parachute, but you're so busy sawing on the wheels, you need a third arm to do it.
Yeah, he couldn't do that, Steve. He was too busy steering the car. He couldn't take his hands off the wheel. I've been in that situation. And all you do is you tuck in real tight and hold yourself in that cage and in that seat to keep you getting bounced around in that car so you don't get a lot of broken bones. And boy, does it feel good when that baby comes to a stop.
Especially after having taken an inventory of all your body parts and find that you still have them all. That was the case with Rich Marino. The car, a total loss. Okay, in one half of the semifinals, warmed up and ready on the starting line, it is Warren Johnson in the far lane and Bruce Allen, the best of the Chevrolet drivers, in the near lane, the Chevrolet Beretta.
Bruce Allen out of Arlington, Texas, finished second overall in 1989. Warren Johnson out of Duluth, Georgia, finished fourth overall in 1989.
I'll tell you, Fred, the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals fans here at Pomona love the Pro Stock cars. It's the product identity, but also the closeness of the competition. Johnson far lane, Allen near lane. It's Johnson who wins the reaction time war. Into high gear. Oh, it is Allen by inches. A 7:34 to a 7.36 second elapsed time.
And we'll have the second pairing in the Pro Stock semifinals right after this. Just how close is Pro Stock racing? Check this out. Bruce Allen, Warren Johnson, Alan Nippingham, and heading for the finals. Back at the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals in Pomona, California, Fred Rogan, Don Garlitz, and Steve Evans.
And there, Fred, you're looking at the only Dodge in Pro Stock competition. Now you say, well, maybe they're not competitive. That one is. Darrell Alderman won 3 NHRA national events last year, and earlier today in Pro Stock competition met up with 10-time champ and legend Bob Glidden. It was Glidden's Ford Probe in the far lane, Alderman in the Dodge in the near lane. Not only did Alderman get off the mark first ahead of Bob Glidden, he also outperformed him. A 7:32 to a 7.36. Glidden was done for the day, and now Alderman has a chance to go to the final round if he can get by this man, Jerry Ekman, the yellow Pontiac, the #1 qualifier.
It's Ekman in the far lane and Alderman in the near lane. This is the final race in the semifinals of Pro Stock.
And it's a beautiful start by both Ekman and Alderman. Jerry Ekman by half a car length, a man who has won only one national event in his long career, has a shot at making that too. Ekman 7:30 to Alderman's losing 7:35.
So our final in Pro Stock is set. Jerry Ekman will take on Bruce Allen, and Ekman will have the lane choice.
And again, let's check in on the Art Hindy story. Back in the funny car pit, they are starting the new engine in that car. It comes to life. Everybody breathes a sigh of relief, but they better find that patched up body, get it snapped on, and head for the staging lane, because it's time for funny car competition, round number 2 here at Pomona.
cars left in this competition, and you are looking at Ed McCullough backing in. McCullough driving an Olds Cutlass out of Hemet, California, taking on Glenn Micras and an 89 Cutlass. Glenn hails from Riverside, California.
You know, Glenn Micras has knocked around this sport for a lot of years in dragsters and funny cars. He now finally has the quality ride he's always dreamed about for car owner Joe Paisano. Ed McCullough has more experience in the seat of a funny car than any other driver in drag racing today.
Also holds the record for the quarter mile at 5.13.
That's very impressive considering these cars usually run 530s.
Indeed it is. McCullough very impressively drives away from Micras. McCullough, who has had a problem finding traction, certainly didn't on that occasion. 5.38, only 258 miles an hour. That car can run 270, so he's apparently taking it a little bit easy on the top end of the racetrack.
Meantime, the body comes down on Scott Coletta's car, and he will have his hands full. He is taking on Winston champ Bruce Larson. You saw him crowned on NBC Sports last year. One man is through today's semifinal. That is Ed McCullough, and Steve is standing by with him now. Steve?
Well, the quickest funny car driver in the world at 5.13 seconds finds that slipping tires demotes him to a 5.38, Ace.
Yeah, it left pretty good, but went out and got loose pretty heavy. So, you know, the racetrack's been pretty good, but, you know, the heat, it's warming up a little bit. We knew that this round was probably the critical round, so.
Think your record is going to stand for a long time, the 5.13?
I think our record will stand until we get back to Dallas, Texas, and then I think it's going to go to an O, and we're going to do it.
One of the best racetracks in the world for sure.
That race, of course, taking place in mid-October. Scott Coletta backing in, and here is Connie Coletta watching his son. Connie, the top fuel driver, was knocked out in the first round by Gary Ormsby.
Scott Coletta, who literally grew up in this sport, won his first funny car championship last year in Houston, the Supernationals. Now, Bruce Larson is another one of those overnight sensations, Don Carlos. He raced for 30 years before he finally won his first big title.
Oh, when he did it in grand style. He won 6 of the 19 events last year to win the Winston Championships.
That 9 on the rear wing has got Coletta tells you where he finished in the points last year in that 9th spot. They're staged and ready. Oh, and off the starting line, it's Coletta. But Larson out-muscles him, a 5.31. Best ET we've seen today from a funny car. Coletta a 5.44. Scott Coletta will not advance today.
Back at the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals, and good news for Art Henry and his fans. After his day at the beach, they have cleaned out his engine, and he is going to run once again this afternoon. Steve?
The heat of the day, Bruce Larson, come on over here, a 5.31. That's awfully good.
Yeah, we're pleased. That's only the 5th full run on this new car, and it just keeps coming around. We're really pleased. The crew made a real judgment call on what to do about the racetrack and the clutch for this last run, and I'm proud of them.
I don't think it would have taken much more power than you gave it.
We'll have a look at the computer, and we'll see what we can do next run.
Traditionally, this track does get better in the late afternoon.
Of course, Bruce Larson referring to the critical relationship between the clutch and traction, and of course, traction wins races, Don Garland.
Drag racing today, if you lose traction and smoke the tires, generally you lose.
Oh, absolutely, Don, unless, of course, the other driver has more problems than you do. That's the only thing you can hope for in that situation. You know, talk about an interesting matchup here. In the near lane, in the blue and white car, I don't remember drag racing really without him as a funny car campaigner. His name is R.C. Sherman, and no one comes much further to race than he does, all the way from the state of Maryland, still looking for his first big NHRA national victory. Now, that's R.C. Sherman's story. His competitor is Casey Spurlock, Nashville, Tennessee, running his first ever Nitro Funny Car competition, and already today he seems some excitement. Earlier, he defeated this man, John Force, the #1 qualifier at 5:28, and we were on board the Oldsmobile with John Force as he took a drubbing from the rookie. Look out the side window of the Force car.
Casey Spurlock knocking off a true heavyweight to pick up his first win. Steve talked with him.
Boy, it feels great. The guys have really worked hard on this car. Ronnie Swearingen, my crew chief, they've really busted their rear end on this car. We had some clutch problems, and they stayed here all week, every day during the time off, and they've made this car fly.
So we have K.C. Spurlock taking on R.C. Sherman.
Doesn't anybody have a real first name anymore? Spurlock, as we said, well, he's got to be still nervous. Imagine going from a 2,000 horsepower car to a 4,000 horsepower car. All the experience in the near lane, all the hopes in the far lane. R.C. Sherman out first, but doesn't have the muscle to race with young Spurlock. He goes to the semifinals as crew chief Ronnie Swearingen, just a look of utter disbelief. 5:37 for Spurlock, 263 miles per hour.
Back in the pit area, top fuel action. Kenny Bernstein's crew trying to get the car ready for a battle against Laurie Johns, Don.
Well, Fred, they're taking extra precautions. They've had 2 runs, problems both runs. They've blown an engine. They want this car right for this next confrontation.
Dale Armstrong has the mind of not only a mechanic, an engineer, and an artist when he puts one of these cars together. You can bet Bernstein will have the best ride possible. Now it's time to smoke the tires again, Don Garlits, the kind of racing the fans have come to love here at Pomona and all the other NHRA events, the funny cars.
But this is the last pair of funnies in the second round, and Art Hendy, just to be here, is an incredible situation. They had to completely rebuild that race car, not just rebuild the motor.
Art meets another Southern California driver. This is Dale Poldy. Poldy in the near lane. Won this event in 1988 in a car that seldom leaves the Southern California area. It's not toured professionally, and it's really a credit to that crew that they can come up with this kind of performance when they need it. Top yellow lights at the pre-stage. They're lit. Poldy's in. Hendy's in. And Poldy drives away from Art Hendy. No contest. A 5:37. Tremendous performance for Dale Poldy. He was off the mark first. He was at the finish line first. So Dale Poldy goes to the semifinal round where he will find Ed McCullough, and Poldy will have the lane choice. The other half of the semis, Bruce Larson versus K.C. Spurlock, the rookie, but Larson has the lane choice in that matchup.
This is our first pairing. Gary Ormsby taking on Dick LaHaye. Don, how do you see this one?
Well, the way I see it, Ormsby feels like he owns Pomona. He's won here the last couple of times, but Dick LaHaye is not going to cut him any slack.
Ormsby and LaHaye getting ready before this race. Let's go down to Steve. He is standing by with Art Hendy.
After his encounter with the sand trap, the crew had so much to do to this automobile that I have to wonder, Art Hendy, if maybe the engine and clutch didn't get the usual attention.
Well, we're busy cleaning everything up. You know, that was the main thing. It had a lot of sand on it. And we didn't know where the water hose was around here. We spent 30 minutes trying to find the water hose. So it was a thrash. You know, there's a lot of people that helped us out, and I want to thank them all. You know, it's fantastic. You know, it's really teamwork.
And the throttle shut that time.
Yeah, it shut that time. And he was ahead of me, and I pulled the chutes a little bit early.
Good insurance.
I'll tell you, that was a heck of an effort to get that car ready. Now let's get back to Top Fuel semifinal.
Gary Ormsby does not come to the starting line totally full of confidence. He wanted a 4-second run in qualifying, and eliminations hasn't gotten it yet. And won't get it here. Dick LaHaye, 5:03, 272 miles per hour. And LaHaye even left the starting line ahead of Ormsby, something that rarely happens.
So Dick LaHaye makes up one half of the finals in the Top Fuel classification. Laurie Johns hopes she will make up the second part of it. She's getting ready to meet Kenny Bernstein when we come back.
Come on to the best, WLEX.
Dick LaHaye will sit back and watch. Kenny Bernstein in the far lane, Laurie Johns in the near lane. Semifinal, Top Fuel.
Kenny Bernstein has left the starting line too soon. He has been disqualified. Laurie John wins it, but the story, Don Garlits, is Kenny Bernstein. What happened?
Kenny Bernstein left the line too soon, drawing the red light, disqualifying him from further competition. But he also was starting into a giant wheel stand. He had to lift. Even if he had not left too soon, he could have not continued on this race. That car was not going to come down from that position.
Now from Kenny Bernstein's perspective, two things the driver hates to see. First, over his right shoulder, the red light. Second, the driver on his right pulling away. Laurie Johns running away to win it. Steve is down at the other end of the track with her now.
Did you see what happened on the starting line?
Oh, yes, sir, I sure did. It scared the heck out of me because when I saw him jump and saw that red light come on, I mean, I left anyway.
but I just couldn't believe that he'd done that.
I don't think he does either. Let me show you why this car slowed down into the 520s. The blower belt is off, so she still has that 5.0 performance capability.
That is good news for Laurie John. She advances to her first final, where Kenny Bernstein, in his first effort in Top Fuel, is knocked out.
And the man getting the hug is Larry Meyer, the crew chief for Laurie Johns. He's doing an excellent job today.
Final pairing in Top Fuel, Laurie Johns against Dick LaHaye. LaHaye has lane choice. And that brings us to the semis of the funny cars.
And it will be, talk about your contrast, Bruce Larson, the reigning champion in the near lane, against the upstart from Tennessee, Casey Spurlock. Larson has made hundreds of runs in Nitro Funny Car. This will be Casey Spurlock's third time down a drag strip in side-by-side competition. You know, earlier, Fred, he told me he has total confidence in the car. It's himself he's worried about, his reaction times, and he's a little bit late. But Larson loses traction, and Spurlock, incredible, goes to the finals in his first ever competition at 5:39 and a big speed of 276 miles per hour. Wow.
And I'll bet Spurlock is surprised, but not near as surprised as Larson.
So Spurlock has advanced to the final. In the other semifinal, it's Dale Pulte taking on Ed McCullough. Don, how do you see this one?
Well, you know, Ed McCullough's a favorite, and Pulte is running good, but both of these men have just seen this rookie win this race, and they're looking ahead. They're thinking, if I win this race, I'll be in the final and I'll probably win. But that could be bad, because that might cause them to misjudge what they're fixing to do right now.
And right now, Steve is at the other end of the track with Casey Spurlock.
Laurie Johns has spent over 2 years trying to earn her first final round berth. She's done that today. But no one ever thought in his rookie appearance this man would do likewise in Funny Car. Congratulations, Casey.
Well, Steve, I can't tell you how I feel. You know, I feel happy for the guys. I feel happy for my mom and dad that have stuck with us through this whole thing. I just can't even begin to tell you how I feel.
He got you a little bit off the mark, and you had to drive around it.
He got me off the tree. Like I told you before, that's my weak point right now in Nitro Funny Car. If I can just get those reactions, it'll be a little harder to beat.
Ed McCullough and Dale Pulte. One of them will face Casey Spurlock for the Winternationals Funny Car crown. We're about to find out which one as they bump them into the staging beam. A good start by both drivers, but McCullough has problems. Pulte has problems. McCullough wins a coasting contest at 5.89 seconds, still 235 miles per hour. Dale Pulte, well, the local fans are going to be disappointed to see that popular car out of competition.
So it's McCullough and Spurlock in the Funny Car finals at the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals. Back in Pomona, California, we're in Laurie Johns' pits at the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals. They're preparing her Top Fuel dragster for the final, but Laurie Johns is making herself very available to her public, Don Garlitz.
Yeah, she signs autographs on one end of the pits and then runs down to the other end and signs. She stays real busy. She doesn't work on the car. There's a lot of work going on in this car right now, but she is definitely giving the fans a thrill.
It's time for our first professional final pro stock. And the team in the near lane, Jerry Ekman, car owner Bill Orndorff, have had an extra strain on them. A very good friend, a fine crewman, passed away the morning of this race. It was Jonna Orndorff's brother. So I'm sure Ekman, more than anything else, would like to win it just in his memory. But he's got a tough competitor. Bruce Allen, an all General Motors final. Pontiac versus Chevrolet Beretta. Perfect start. Dead even. Photo finish. It is Ekman. Identical elapsed times, identical speeds.
Identical times, identical speeds, but then how do you determine who wins, Don?
Well, it wasn't quite identical. There was a 1/1000th difference between these two cars, so Ekman needed that starting line advantage to make the determination. The car did have a tiny bit more performance than Allen, but not really hardly enough to win the race. But in a race that's as close as this, it takes those photo finish lights to make the determination.
So when we carry it out, yet another digit, Jerry Ekman, 7.338, Bruce Allen, 7.339. Bill Orndorff and his wife sharing a difficult day together, the death of her brother this morning, and then the victory in the race. Now Steve is with Jerry Ekman.
Absolutely one of the finest pro stock final rounds we have ever witnessed, and here's the victor.
Oh, thanks, Steve. First of all, I got to say I want to dedicate this race to Jimmy Watson, who passed away this morning. One of our big fans, Bill's wife's brother.
Did you know you'd won?
I knew I won. I knew it was close. I could see Bruce with me all the way, but when we started getting into high gear, I saw it coming, and I thought, here it is. And I'm so grateful that Penzo and Pontiac both had the confidence to stick with us through our lean times, because we're winners now. We're here.
I'll second that. Everybody down here will.
On a difficult day, Jerry Ekman and his crew turning it into a victory. Now getting set for the funny car final, the veteran Ed McCullough taking on the rookie Casey Spurlock.
I can just read McCullough's mind right now. He figures he's got this race won. It's going to be easy pickings, but he better remember that Spurlock took out the #1 qualifier, John Force, and the Winston champion, Larson.
And earlier, Steve had a chance to find out more about this amazing young man.
No, there's nothing wrong with your television set, and we have not switched venues to winged outlaw sprint car racing. The story is Casey Spurlock's family are the leading builders of sprint cars. Why did their one and only little boy go straight racing?
I guess because I've been around it all my life, I had to go do something different. It sure would have been cheaper to go sprint car racing, that's for sure.
Is it with your family's support and encouragement?
Very much so. Without them, there's no way I could do this. This year, we're without a major sponsor. We have a lot of help from our associate sponsors. But without Mom and Dad, there's no way I could be out here.
Casey Spurlock and Ed McCullough in the finals of Funny Car.
You know, the crew tagged him with that Hollywood nickname. Casey was raised in Nashville show business. His father, C.K., has been a long-time concert manager for Kenny Rogers and other major stars. So he likes the fancy jackets and the snakeskin sunglasses and has a good time with it.
He hopes he can make music here against Ed McCullough in this final. McCullough in the near lane. Spurlock in the far lane.
And it's McCullough losing traction. McCullough too much, and Spurlock has a problem, but he's gonna win it. What a story. The odds you could have gotten on these two cars meeting and Casey Spurlock winning would have been long indeed. Incredible, Don Garland.
Well, the race hardly got started, and Ed McCullough lost traction. And as I said earlier, you don't win many drag races today when you lose traction. And it was a good thing, too, for Spurlock, because he barely got down the racetrack, and the supercharger belt, like we saw earlier on Perdome's car, flies off the car, the flames go out, and no power.
Steve is with the new Funny Car champ.
This is the stuff that dreams are made of. Casey Spurlock, Winternationals champion.
Steve, thanks. Again, I've got to thank all my guys, Ronnie Swearingen, my crew chief, all the guys. They've worked so hard for this. Our sponsors, when nobody else believed in us, my mom and dad, Oakley, Adidas, they believed in us enough to get behind this race car, and we just paid them back. I couldn't be happier.
When do you think this is finally going to sink in?
Probably sometime tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve.
A magical day for the underdogs. Casey Spurlock taking the Funny Car title. Jerry Ekman winning the Pro Stock division. The question is now, will it continue in Top Fuel? Will it be the veteran Dick LaHaye, who has captured 14 national events and 1 Winston championship, or the underdog, Laurie Johns? In her first final round appearance, will she become just the 3rd woman ever to win a Nitro Class championship? We'll be back. Back in Pomona, the celebration continues at the far end of the track. Casey Spurlock and crew enjoying and savoring the moment. His first Funny Car championship. But on the track, it is time for the finals of Top Fuel, Dick LaHaye and Laurie Johns.
Well, you know, only 2 women have ever won a Nitro Fuel championship. Shirley Muldowney has won 18 races, and back in 1982, a lady named Lucille Lee won the Southern Nationals. But other than that, it's been an all-men show in Top Fuel. And you would think that would give LaHaye a lot of confidence, but I'm sure he's very concerned about Laurie Johns sitting over there in the other lane. He doesn't trust her.
Laurie Johns has been to the dance a number of times, but never had the honor of the last one, never to the finals, and never winning it. You know Laurie Johns has to be feeling the pressure now, and it's a family affair when it comes to the Johns. Usually both her mom and dad travel with her throughout the drag racing season, but on this day, only Laurie's mom is aboard, and Steve spent some time with her earlier.
Julia, any mother frets watching her daughter compete in any sport, but this has got to be incredible on you.
It is incredible. I am so excited right now because she's in her first final, but I get so nervous on the way up there. I keep thinking, you know, this can go wrong, maybe the parachutes won't come out, but I am really happy for Laurie. She's gone through a lot, and I'm real happy for her to go through this.
Lori John's mom referring to the long road she took to get to her very first final.
Dick LaHaye, exactly twice the age of Lori Johns. But in this sport, as we've seen today, age means absolutely nothing. How quick and how fast can you cover 1,320 feet? They leave as one. Lori Johns has won the Winternationals. Lori Johns becomes only the third woman to ever win in the kings of the sport, top fuel dragsters. The entire place is absolutely bedlam, led by Julia Johns. Don Garlits is down in all of that madness with the man responsible for her horsepower, Larry Meyer.
Unreal!
It's a Cinderella story, that's all I can say.
That's what we were saying. Fred and I were saying it could be a Cinderella story.
We've seen something that last round, we've seen something we needed to change, and we did it, and it'll work, so we're looking pretty good.
Great stuff.
You better believe it. And Steve is with the new top fuel champion.
Lori Johns has won her first ever NHRA national event. Congratulations.
Thank you. You know, Steve, that they say that the luckiest man alive is one who thinks himself so, and I think I'm the luckiest person alive.
Side by side, 5:03s. You had a little edge off the mark.
Oh, my God, can you believe that? The slowest woman in the world off the start line I have. My father's going to be so happy because he teases me so much about being late off the start line, and I actually won one. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my crew. I've been called a passenger in a fast car, and that's really what I am. And I don't really have anything to do with this car other than I ride in it. And the people that deserve the credit are Larry Meyer, my crew chief, Ronnie Woods, Ted Fashing, my father, Terry Johns, and we wouldn't be here at all without the people at Jolly Rancher. They put us here.
Does it feel as good as you always imagined it might?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's happening to me. I rolled around when I saw my car go through the lights first. I just thought, how is this happening to me? I mean, somehow I just thought it would never happen.
You believed in yourself.
Yes.
If you work for anything long enough, good things will happen, Don Garlits.
Yes, it will, and this is what makes Top Fuel Racing so exciting. Watch this start. The cars are like they're welded together. They leave the line together. Look at the front wheels on Lori John's car. Just tippy-toeing, going down the strip, just barely keeping enough traction on those front wheels to control that car. The cars at half track are still tied together, but at the end, that tiny little bit of difference made Lori Johns the winner.
Lori has been named the Goodyear driver of the race and will therefore have $1,000 donated in her name to the Special Equipment Manufacturers Association Scholarship Fund. For Big Daddy Don Garlits and Steve Evans, this is Fred Rogan on a day of upsets, saying so long from the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals in Pomona, California.
This NBC Sports Special has been brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Ford Motorcraft. Get the peace of mind of doing it right with the right parts. Motorcraft quality parts. By Goodyear Eagle Radios, the best-selling performance radios in the world. And by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately?